Hi class, Dr. Colson. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 11, which is the least restrictive environment. Just so you know, least restrictive environment is not a place. It's a principle that guides your child's educational program. So the least restrictive environment, or LRE is what you'll hear it called most time, is part of the Individuals with Disability Education Act, which is IDEA. And IDEA says that children who receive special ed should learn in the least restrictive environment. This means they should spend as much time as possible with peers who do not receive special education. So what you'll hear sometimes is that they're included in the general education classroom as much as possible. So IDEA says two things about the LRE that are important to understand when working with an IEP team. So in the last chapter, you talked about and learned about IEPs. So for this one, this should kind of make sense to you. So number one, your child should be with kids in the general education classroom to the maximum extent that is appropriate. Now remember that word appropriate is different for each child based on their disability. And number two, special classes, separate schools, or removal from the general education classroom should only happen when your child's learning or attention issue, what we call the disability, under IDEA is so severe that supplemental aids and services cannot provide him with an appropriate education. The key word here is appropriate. It refers to what is suitable or right for your child. Sometimes putting a child in a general education classroom isn't suitable because a specific service or program cannot be provided there. There are different types of LRE. So you hear the types that you'll hear most common, and you'll probably learn in this chapter as well. So the general education classroom with support. So your child spends the entire day in the general education classroom. He or she receives support and services like a tutor or aide, assistive technology, related services, accommodations, modifications, or any combination of these. Also, sometimes these may be a co-taught class, so there's a general education teacher and a special education teacher in there as well. Then we have partial mainstream or an inclusion classroom. Your child spends part of the day in the general education classroom. He gets some individual or small group instruction in a special education class. That means he may be pulled out for some things, or is pulled out for a class for some services. And then special education classroom is this program with specialized instruction for kids with similar learning needs. They are not included in the general education classroom when they're in a special education class. And then specialized program outside of your school district. This includes private schools, residential programs, and hospital programs. Understanding what LRE means can help you get the best experience for students at school. So the main takeaways for LRE are IDEA leaves least restrictive environment open to interpretation. And like I said, this is where a lot of the law and things like that comes into play because it is open to interpretation. And there are several ways to make sure kids who receive special education are learning with their general education peers. And as a member of the IEP team, you should be involved in figuring out what is the least restrictive environment. So as you'll see here for Chapter 11, we have your PowerPoint, I have your weekly reading, I have a couple of videos that kind of go back over LRE, or the least restrictive environment. You have your VoiceThread discussion and your Chapter 11 quiz. All right, so we will talk to you soon. Bye.